I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk a little bit about the Comptroller's Office and about what could happen if, by chance, the electorate decided to elect a principled, ethical, honest person to the office as opposed to their standard operating procedure, which is to elect yet another party hack who, in fact, does what? Hand in the till. Mr. Hevesy had the hand in the till unbelievably before he had to step down after he pleaded guilty to a felony. The felony being that he had used a state employee as a personal chauffeur for his wife. And that felony included taking something like $500,000 in state money to pay for that guy. And what do you think his punishment was? $5,000 fine. And he had to give up the office he was elected to, despite the fact that he had already been indicted for the felony when it. So that's the introduction to what could happen if you had a principled, ethical state comptroller. Well, one of the things that could happen is if I were that person, if you get enough votes this time around, about 10 times what we got the last time, that would be nice, is immediately institute a socially responsible investing program. It exists right now in New York State. There's $132 billion in the Common Retirement Fund. That's the public servants retirement fund. 132 billion, that's 9 zeros. It's a lot of money. There was 4 years ago 145 billion in the fund. It's gone not because they gave 13 billion to our fellow citizens who work for the state and local governments. It's gone because the money was invested, among other things, in hedge funds. Hedge funds that are secret, hedge funds that are non-transparent, hedge funds that nobody knows exactly what they do with it, but one of them that has become public recently is New York State put $200 million into a hedge fund which was created to invest in Ireland. We could use a few jobs in New York. I think we all know that we could use a few jobs in New York. So it would be very valuable to put $200 million of the state's common retirement fund into businesses that would produce jobs in the state of New York. Well, what they did was put $200 million into a fund created to invest in Ireland. No saying what they were going to invest in, just it's got to be invested in Ireland. And about a month ago, they fired. In other words, they took the $200 million out of that hedge fund. It had been there for 3 years, and the 3 years it was sitting there, the hedge funders never invested it any place. It just sat there because the economy in Ireland collapsed. And the collapsing economy meant that they had no place to invest the money. So they just left it there for 3 years, and the state of New York paid them $6 million in investment fees for just leaving it there, not collecting any interest or anything. So what would happen if you had a controller who, in fact, was in the business of doing the best for our state? That controller would be investing in businesses, in institutions, in research and design that would produce jobs in New York State. Another thing one of the things I was going to speak about, and when Cynthia gets here, she will, I'm sure, talk about, is Gaza and Israel's role in the oppression of the Palestinian people. New York State and New York City both have hundreds of millions of dollars invested in Israel bonds. That money is going for construction and job stimulus in the state of Israel. That money in those bonds is non-liquid. That means that when New York State and New York City buy Israel bonds, they cannot sell them. The only way they could possibly get that money back if it stops producing revenue for the state is for the state of Israel to agree to give it back. And the state of Israel doesn't have to agree to give it back. The bonds can't be sold anyplace else, and the only way to get the money back is say, Israel, will you please give us the money back? And if Israel decides to do it, then we get the money back in the fund. If they don't, it's gone. This is two of the to say the least, antisocial uses of our common retirement fund. There are any number of other antisocial uses of our fund. And I am frequently asked when I talk about this, well, if we don't do that with the money, and if we don't invest in Lockheed Martin and weapons, if we don't invest in mining uranium someplace, how will we make money with our fund? And I say, Norway, which has a sovereign wealth fund from their oil, has a $248 billion retirement fund, if you will. And they have a socially responsible investment commitment, which means that if they decide by evidence that some organization that they're invested in is unethical or anti-union or not producing, like Walmart. They just divested from Walmart. They just divested millions of dollars from Walmart. They don't invest in military spending at all, and yet they make a very, very substantial return on their investment, and it's safe money.